Good morning. It seems that Anne Toomey's back putting stuff on her.
Continue.
Now it says, good morning. It seems Anne Toomey's back putting nice things onto her Facebook page, stating she knows this, she knows that. That's fine. She can say what she likes. I'm going to address a few things that have come up from people who have commented on there. And obviously, those who commented on there are either lawyers or somebody who works for them or somebody who works for the government who thinks they're smart. Now, one of the things came up, they said, I'm not a Commonwealth public official, and 4 separate court cases have determined that. No, don't lie. There's only been one court case where my ability to be a Commonwealth public official was ever challenged, and that was in the court in Geraldton in 2023. Now, what the police said was I appointed myself.
Speak louder.
When I went into the court, I produced a certificate of appointment, which isn't from the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, because we don't have one. I was appointed under the authority granted from the Archbishop of Canterbury through the Court of Faculties England. And that was produced to the court. He could see it. He said, I don't need you to hand it up to me, and accepted the fact that I am a Commonwealth public official. So the person who made that statement is lying. You're lying because you haven't checked it out. Otherwise, you would have found out it's true what I just said. Now, another thing you said, I was sacked out of the police force for misconduct. Was I? That's an outright lie. This here, and you can see it, retired member of the Western Australian Police Force. Why was I retired? Because I was retired medically unfit. The nonsense you tried was put to the court by the state solicitor in 2015 in a case in the District Court, Kalgoorlie, and I made him look like an idiot because I produced that which says I was boarded out medically unfit after a bad motorbike accident. Now tell the truth. That's what happened. Now, another issue that was raised on your page, obviously by another troll, either whatever they call themselves, paralegal or paralysed brains, probably the latter. Now, what they said is I started this movement in Western Australia. No, that's a lie. I joined this movement in 2006. That's a fact. You want to attach me to that, that's the only way you can. I did at that stage work with Brian Shaw and a couple of others, and I'm still friends with most of them. Brian, I don't know if I'm friends or not, he hasn't talked to me for a while. He has a different opinion of where you should start investigating in the criminal activities of the parliaments of the state. Now, the reason I say criminal activities, and I'm going to produce the evidence in a minute, so what I'll do is Brian deals with issues from 1972 until now, which is where he feels it should be. His ideas, his beliefs, I got no problem with that. However, when the issue goes back to the 1st of January 1901, and before that, and we can prove it, and we have the evidence to prove that, anyone who opposes me going back there is obviously not going back far enough. Because if you accept from 1901 to 1972, you've accepted what they put in place. Simple as that. I don't, because I evidence to the contrary. Absolute lies and fraud by the continuing operation of a group of people calling themselves the government of Western Australia, who are not. Now, further, and to me, you said the ABN numbers is for GST only. Alright? Now I referred you to the section of the Constitution, section 51, subsection 2, which states, any law in relation to tax shall deal with one subject to tax only. Comprehend that. One is one. The number 1. Goods and services is too subject to tax in the one law. What's wrong with it? It's unlawful. Do we have to abide by it? No. But you seem to think, oh, the Parliament's supreme. Well, that's an absolute lie. And this is the red constitution, which you says the same as the green one, so I guess your green one says the same. The federal constitution must be above both houses of Parliament, and they must conform to it, because it is the charter under which union takes place, and the guarantee of rights under which union takes place. And unless you have some authority for them to interpret that, what guarantee have you for preserving their rights at all? It is very necessary to insert this provision in the Constitution, and it was, because if you do not do that, then these questions are questions of procedure between the two houses, in which undue pressure may be brought to bear at any time on one house or another for the purposes of vetoing a law and doing injustice to the states represented in that house in different ways. So Parliament is not supreme, and the very essence of federation is that it should not be so. Parliament, as far as constitutional questions are concerned, is under the law and must obey the law. That's clear. If you can't understand that, Anne Toomey, I suggest you throw your documents in the bin that say you know the Constitution, because obviously you don't. You don't. And now, this is a problem, and you say that the ABN numbers are only attached to government departments for GST. Well, if GST is unlawful, why have we still got it? And why are they still doing it after all these years of me hammering them on the lies? Now, this is the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution for WA, ABN number 33585197-892, Department of the Attorney General, 70598519443. Supreme Court of Western Australia, same ABN as Department of the Attorney General. District Court, same. Magistrate Court, the same. Western Australian Police Service, ABN 91724 684 688. Western Australian Police Department, ABN 91724 684 688. Now, you seem to think that you're smart. These entities all come under the Fair Work Act 2009 Commonwealth, the Corporation Act 2001 Commonwealth, and ASIC Act 2001 as trading companies under the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900 UK and the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, or Constitution 1901. Now, Commonwealth Constitution Act, Section 51, Legislative Powers of the Parliament. Legislative Powers of the Parliament. The Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, have power to make laws for the peace, order and good government of the Commonwealth with respect to Section 20. There's 51, subsection 20. Foreign corporations and trading or financial corporations formed within the limits of the Commonwealth. Any person in the employment of these entities are employees of a trading company employed in a private capacity are not in the service of the Crown and not in the service of the state government, but private individuals and liable in a private capacity for their own personal actions. Now, you're trying to say that none of that applies because you said so. Well, you have no bearing on anything because what you're saying is not the truth. The communication, electrical, electronic, energy, information, postal, plumbing and allied services Union of Australia versus Queensland Rail 2015, HCA 11, 8th of April 2015. You understand that one? Perhaps. High Court of Australia, French, CJ, Chief Justice, Hayne, Kiefel, Bell, Gallagher, Keane and Nettle. The High Court unanimously held that Queensland Rail is a trading corporation within the meaning of Section 51(20) of the Constitution, with the consequences consequence that the relations between Queensland Rail and its employees are governed by federal industrial relations law and not Queensland industrial law. What has that just told you? Told you you were talking nonsense, simply because you're a nothing. You were trying to put forward government rhetoric, which is lies. They haven't got an ABN for the fact that they want to get out of GST or deal with GST. How can the government tax itself? Because the only legislation that applies to companies is federal, not state. So when you took and allowed companies to be formed involving state facilities, which you did, you registered in America under the Foreign Agent Registration Act as foreign agent government entities. The only way they could come back into Australia is under the Commonwealth Constitution, under the Corporations Act, federal law, to comply with 5120. The only law then that could be applied is Fair Work Act, 2009, Section 30. Now, if you read that act, you find out everything I've just said is correct. You are lying when you say that. Now, the reason I say you're lying, it doesn't say you're a liar, you are lying when you say that, because that statement that you make, that it's only for GST, is a lie, government rhetoric. Because it says here, law enforcement officer means a member of the police force or police service, a person appointed to a position for the purpose of being trained as a member of a police force or police service. What happened to police who are actually officers of the Commonwealth? Interesting? Yes. Where in any constitution does it say the states can have a police force? Did they have them as colonies? Yes. The states that are established under 107, 108 and 109, subject to the Commonwealth Constitution. Where does it say they can have policing? Where does it say? Here's the Act, aside from the Red Book, which you tend to push aside because you want to know everything. That's okay. That's okay. You know, the thing is, I'm sick. Well, I'm not sick at all. I'm fine. I'm perfectly healthy. I've had a guts full of your lies, and I'm not calling you a liar again. I'm saying what you've learnt is a lie, what you're teaching is fraud, and you should be removed from that position that you've got until such time as you can bring yourself to teach actual fact out of this. This is the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK, proclaimed and gazetted on the 9th of July 1900 in England, made the Commonwealth Constitution Act. Under that is created the Commonwealth. This is an enabling act, enables us to have a Commonwealth and a Constitution. Now, if you don't deal with it the way this says, or anything else, and the parliaments don't, they don't exist in law. But you don't seem to give a hang about that. You seem to say, I'll let any trolls on my post, I'll let them say anything without controlling them. I just wipe them out. Now, when you look at it, because this doesn't establish the police, who establishes imperial law? Who controls the police force? It's a force. It can be a service, it can be a force, just like the Army, Navy and Air Force. Who has control of those? The Governor General. So how does it filter down so we can have a police force in the States? Go look at the law and comprehend this. Every single person employed in the public service in this country is employed as an officer of the Commonwealth. The High Court can say it's not, but they're not telling the truth either. They're just referring it under what you say is the Australia Act, which you say the Parliament has authority to put in place without going to the people. And you lied about that. I'm saying you lied about that simply because what you said is not true. And you are an expert in the field, therefore you should have known or would have known or could have referenced and found out that that is a lie. The Australia Act is made pursuant to section 51 subsection 38. So let's look at that, thank you, because it's nice that you will consider what I say because you haven't got a choice. And that's how it should be when people make statements that are wrong. And you do make statements which are wrong. I'll get to it in a sec, just bear with me. The exercise within the Commonwealth at the request of, with the concurrence of the parliaments of all the states directly concerned of any power which can at the establishment of this constitution be exercised only by the Parliament of the United Kingdom or by the Federal Council of Australia. Now, that all sounds like all you need is the states to confer and you can do whatever you like, but that's not true. That's not true. Because when you read Quick and Garran, there was no power exercisable by any parliament at federation in this country. Why? Because they didn't exist. They did not exist. We had to have an election for the parliaments of the states. That required complying with 107, 108 and 109 and the fact that the state constitutions were in place. This is the state constitution of Western Australia. It is not the one that Western Australia put in place with 32 sections missing. It's not. Now, I've explained this before, but it doesn't seem to sink in with people like you. You're not listening. I presented that to the court. We're going to have a voir dire to prove whether this was lawful or the one with 32 sections was missing was lawful, and it can't. So you go back to the section you're talking about, 5138. That explains that Quick and Garran states clearly they had no authority because there was no federal parliament until the 6 states put their constitutions in place in their original form according to the letters patent issued by Queen Victoria on the 29th of October 1900, put every state constitution in place in its original form. But she went further than that, Queen Victoria, because she was looking after the people, which people say, oh, she was this. I don't care. This is the letters patent for the office of governor. She put that in place too. So, is this lawful? Yeah, we'll read the Constitution annotated again and look up section 72. Where the Governor-General selects all judges for the Federal Court and the High Court. The Governor-General in Council, not the Federal Parliament, which you seem to think is above the Constitution. But I just read from the Constitution where it says clearly it's not. It's subject to. Subject to means underneath, only granted authority by that, nothing else. Now, if that wasn't so and Quick and Garran stated it this way, there was only 7 legislative areas exercisable by the Australasian Council and even less by the colonies. And all 7 are contained in section 51 of the Constitution. Well, interesting thing is, when you look at section 51 of the Constitution, there is no ownership interference with land. It is not a state issue, that's a lie. The states were created subject to. If you can't figure that, get out of your job. Get out of your job. The states were created subject to. I know, in Western Australia, they overcome that. No, they didn't. They went to court, James McGinty and others versus the state of Western Australia, which is the people. The people, not the Parliament. The state of Western Australia is not what we got at present. And I'll come to that in a minute, because everything you are purporting is truth. It's not. It's not true at all. And I can prove it all. And they knew it. That's why they got it out of the district court as quick as possible, didn't want to deal with me because they couldn't prove what I said was incorrect, and they knew I could prove what I said was correct. Now, I don't care about people who claim they got this before me, did that. I'm not interested in any of that nonsense. It didn't happen. So don't worry about it. Now, the theatrical performance, I like that. But I'll get off your reading what you said. But anyway, the issue is, and to me, you need to either pull in line, the donkeys get on there and sprout nonsense. I was not sacked from the police force. I was boarded out medically unfit after a near fatal accident. I broke a lot of bones. I tried to recuperate, didn't work, so they boarded me out medically unfit. This ID proves I was boarded out, I was retired. And that's the only way you can get a retired police officer's ID, is if you retired, not because you were sacked. People who are sacked don't get one. And I'll tell you that now, that's the truth. If you don't like what I just said, you better wake up to yourself and not let idiots on your Facebook page. Doesn't worry me, just people brought it to my attention that I was sacked for misconduct. I've never been sacked for misconduct in the police force. That's a lie. It's a lie. Now, what I want you to do is go and read the Constitution. Forget the annotations, green or red. Read the Constitution and comprehend it. You purport to have the ability to understand it. Show us you got that ability. Show us that you are not going to succumb to government lies and rubbish and allow the government to tell you that they're sovereign and supreme when the Constitution is very clear they're not. Supreme, absolute and uncontrollable authority remains with who? The people. Now, look at the police force. If every public servant swears the oath of allegiance, which they're required to do before they take their oath of office, that law is 1 William and Mary. Perhaps you could look it up. 1 William and Mary. Do you comprehend that, and to me? Then you get that, and you read that, and you understand everybody, except for the clergy of the Church of England, must swear that oath. Must. We have a donkey in Queensland, calls himself a senator, doesn't believe in the Constitution, and certainly doesn't believe in the oath. Section 42 of the Constitution says every senator, every means all in this country, and every member of the House of Representatives, everybody in this country that sits there, must swear the oath before swearing their oath of office. Must. It's a requirement. And what do? You allow these people to do it. And what do you comment on that? Nothing. So what are you teaching? Government rhetoric, obviously, because you are not going up against these people. I don't care how charismatic these people are. If they deny our Constitution, they deny the oath contained in it to be servants of the people, they're not. They're serving their political party rhetoric and the government crap which pours out of the mouth of every politician at present. There is none of them lawful. Behind the scenes, there's a group of people trying to get them to go back under the Constitution. You know the next election can't happen. If you prorogue the Parliament, where is it? It doesn't exist until the next election. Who sits in the Parliament once it's prorogued? The executive, selected by the Governor-General or the Governor at state level. But we don't have a federal Parliament at all. I've never had a lawful federal Parliament until we had the 6 states. Now, it's been told that Western Australia never went in federation. Well, the person who said that is not telling the truth either. I explained to him in the video I did, there was a proclamation before federation by Queen Victoria stating Western Australia will go into federation the same time as anybody else, but they didn't comply. And it was Senator Rennick. Apparently he's against our Constitution from what is reported by the media. Now, Senator Rennick, if you're listening to what I'm saying, if you don't swear that oath, you're not a senator. Any oath you take outside the oath to serve the Constitution and everything else means you're not serving the people. You're there for your political views. They have no bearing. You're there to represent every single person. But now, here's the clanger for all of you. Because there's never been a federal parliament, and there hasn't, till you have 6 lawful states with 6 lawful state constitutions, and we have none at present. They all removed them and changed them. Therein lies the biggest problem with this country, because we don't have a lawful federal parliament. We don't. So they can't change the Electoral Commission because there wasn't one. Did they have control at Federation? No. The control over elections is by state. Read chapter 1, you'll find out the governor of the states selects a pool of people. Every single one of those people, do they represent political parties? That's their private view. They must represent the whole state. There's no boundaries. It was removed under the provisions of Clause 8. Boundaries Act no longer applies. If you say there is, show me in the Constitution where it says they can have them. No. Do the federal parliament have boundaries? No. The boundary of the Commonwealth of Australia is 12 nautical miles out at sea. But we don't have a federal parliament to change that. Even though they say they do, they don't. And I looked at the video from that rabbi about what's going on in this country. Well, if you are an immigrant to this country, the Constitution demands, doesn't think, it demands, you follow our customs and beliefs, assimilate into our society, or get out. If you do the things that that rabbi is saying, you don't have to agree with his religion, but the government can't question it, nor can they legislate against it. That's not the issue here. The issue is the blatant ignorance of the idiots that are doing the things they're doing against the Jewish race. Am I a Jew? No. Am I Hebrew? Of descent? Yes. But I'm not a Jew. Now, if it's the same thing, boo-hoo. So what? I was born in Mount Lawley in Western Australia. I am native to this country around 7 or 8 times in our family setup. I am indigenous to this country for the same reason, as are all the natives in this country. They're indigenous. They are native. They were born here. Aboriginal, I don't like the word or even the reference to it. Now, if we accept that, we can all get on good here. One thing we need to do is get rid of the scum in this country. It's not good enough just to arrest them, put them in the court, put them to bail. No. If you're caught in sedition and treason and treachery and the things they're doing against the people who are in this country, I take it that rabbi was lawfully in this country, born here, or emigrated here, wherever he came from. If he was, and he's following our customs of belief, the free exercise of his religion without restriction by law, why are you doing what you're doing? Because you want him to believe what you say, or you think you've got the right to kill him or get rid of him or beat him up or do whatever you want. No, you don't. No, you don't. You think you're smart. You don't believe in God. You soon will. You keep hammering the Jews or the Hebrews or whatever. He has a tendency and a history of dealing with people like you. But this country has a duty to protect those people. It's not race. We're all the same race. All the same race. Understand that. It isn't a racial thing. This is anti-religion. And you're trying to knock out one religion for the preference of another. Regardless of what it is. Even communism or anything else. Since the High Court decided it's a religion, it's not. It's a cult. The Roman Church is a cult. The Catholic Church is a religion. Learn the difference. I'm not going to go any further in relation to this because I want to do another video in the next couple of days. But comes voting time, if you go into the voting office, I would take a piece of paper written on it, please supply me with lawful people that I can vote for. Because none of them in there are lawful. None of them. Unless they're selected a pool by the governor, so you vote for one person once for the lower house, one person once for the upper house, and that includes federal parliament as well. Unless that's there, you can't have a vote. And any vote you make is unlawful. So you can go in there, you can present a letter, put your name, your address, and the fact you've been in here to vote, and you can't because you are not complying with our Constitution, which is the supreme law of this country, above everything, including you, Ann Toomey. So correct your rhetoric a little bit and put it inside the Commonwealth held to the Constitution and laws made pursuant to it, because you're not. You're dribbling nonsense, teaching nonsense, and it's government rhetoric. Get it out of your system because it's wrong. Not because I don't agree with you. You have a right to do whatever you want, except lie to the people. When you take on the job of teaching, you take on the job to teach the people the correct law. LAW, whatever you want to call it. The rest is nonsense. We have a constitution which lays out the parameters set as how we wish to be governed. The people are sovereign and supreme. Our supreme law states that. The Parliament is subject to. When this state, Western Australia, tried to overturn it with McGuinty versus the state of Western Australia, the High Court ruled against him. Why? Because he was wrong. The states did not exist before Federation. They were colonies. They never existed until the 1st of January 1901. They ceased to exist on the 9th of July 1900 on the proclamation of the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK, the Enabling Act. If you say it's anything but that, you're lying. Read your Constitution, understand what I'm saying is correct. So I'll leave you with a lot of thoughts. Think about it, Ann Toomey, because sooner or later you will stand trial for treason. You're not exempt, nor is anybody in this country exempt from the law, including myself. That's why I tried to stay inside it. And they try everything they can to dismiss it. And I sat in a court case the other day where the magistrate, he claims to be one, but he's not. He doesn't comply with the Constitution. He decided he had the right to lift all the affidavits filed in the court. All of them. Each of those affidavits revealed criminal offences against some of the parties concerned in the court. And he uplifted and removed them. Why? Because he works for the government. He has an ABN number. I just read it to you, the ABN numbers. They are trading companies. And by October this year, they have to put the name of their business there, which is whoever is trading as. The second they put that there, it proves they are employed by a company. And every single one of those employees, whether they like it or not, is subject to the law. Every single one, as individual offenders. And that includes magistrates and everybody else. What is before this court in this town is the biggest criminal act against people I have seen for a long, long time. I've seen huge amounts of cases in the 17 years I was in the police force. But this one is the most atrocious one I've ever seen, with paperwork is superimposed over the top of a court seal without any signature. How do you seal something without putting the seal over the top of the paperwork? It's already on the papers that you're printing on. And you call that lawful? And then it's signed off by a registrar. How does a registrar sign a warrant or anything else? That's a judicial function, enabling the police to go out and seize, in this case, two children. Two children. Now, there's no order from the court to hold those children, and every time the case goes to court, the welfare lies, the court accepts their lies. Accepts their lies. Because what they've actually done is, on the 19th of November, they were ordered with 1 week to file all the documents. They told the court they had none. They needed 3 months. Well, how come the next day, the 20th, they gave all the documents the court required to the family of the children? I know, I've got them. Well, that is one of the affidavits I filed in the court. So that magistrate on Tuesday misled, deceived and lied to the court and committed blatant treason, and he is not a magistrate. To do what he's done is criminal, outright criminal. How come the federal police or the Commonwealth police or the police here, who are Commonwealth officers, should be and aren't, how come they haven't arrested him? That's their purpose, under the control of the governor, to arrest the parliament or offenders. Why hasn't this magistrate been arrested for his criminal activity? What happens? They get another month's adjournment. So these children are stuck in the control of maggots, and our maggots all work for a company with an ABN number. It's on their documents, and that's on the affidavit I filed. But they've taken every single affidavit out and banned any more affidavits being put in. How do you file evidence into a court when you're not allowed to file an affidavit? How do you do it? The Act says you can, they're saying you can't. So the magistrate can make his own rules. The magistrate should be sacked on the spot and kicked out. And the registrar who signed that warrant, jailed. Criminal contempt of the High Court. That's in the affidavit I submitted. And they've had that since the 17th of December. They've done nothing except Tuesday removed it from the court. That is a criminal offence. Do you think you're going to get away with it? No, you're not. You don't know what I'm going to do, and no, I'm not going to tell anybody on here, and I cannot give you information in relation to that case because it's juveniles, and for the benefit of those two children, you can't give it out, and I agree with that law.
And the boy got blister.
The which? No, one of the children was burnt badly on the hottest day in this state because he was put out on the beach here, and he was there for quite a few hours without the appropriate equipment to keep him away from the sun, and he has what was assessed by a nurse, a high-ranking nurse with the intellectual ability to do it, that was a level 2 burn, a very serious burn, and they're doing nothing. Whether we have administrative courts and anything else, I agree with what people are saying in the comments here, but I'm not going to comment on it because we actually have courts of presumption, even though they're administrating joke. Now, these people I know from the DCP don't like me, and that's okay. As long as they hate me, it's even good for the people who I have to talk to. And they intend doing things to me which they're not going to get away with. If they hinder me or annoy me, they'll find out how lawful my appointment is and the fact that they can go to jail for hindering and annoying me. So I'm not going to go any further because I don't want it to come out who these people are. But these two children are being abused by the DCP, kept away from their family over Christmas and everything else. The oldest one of the two, which is 7, rode approximately 10 kilometres to get to his house just to see his parents on Boxing Day when it was really hot. He did that, but he's not fit. He's obese, he's overweight. You know, the people that assess kids as that should have a good look at them first. He weighs 51 kilos, so what? If he can ride a little over 10 k's, because I clocked it, to his school and to where he is, where his parents are, and make it on a stinking hot day without any water or food, with bare feet on his bike, so he couldn't put his feet down, and there was no order to hold him. What's going on here? You want to combat pedophilia? Lock up the welfare. They're not doing anything for it. They're condoning it and backing it up. And I will keep pushing. I'm going to bring you maggots down. And that's what drives me to do it. The dislike for pedophiles and traitors. Every politician in this country, as soon as they get a grant of authority, any judge, magistrate, child welfare, the police, the lot, if you do nothing about the sealing of the documents in relation to pedophilia, you are one. And by doing nothing, you're waging war on the people and the Crown of England. Understand, you're subject to the Treason Felony Act. Read it and weep. So thank you very much for listening. It is like a sort of a rant, but I'm entitled to make it because I'm sick of the corruption in this country, which I've fought most of my life to protect it from. And if you think it's right, then you're sick too. Do something. Tell your local MPs. Fix the problem before you try going to an election, and put the constitution of the states back in place so we can have a lawful election under the chapter 1 of our constitution. Till then, all of you are traitors. Understand that. I'm talking about politicians and such like, and people in authority. You are what you fail to do. That is both international law and our law. So have a lovely day and enjoy yourselves. Thank you.